Sai, welcome to Timelines of Success.
Hey, thank you. Glad to be here.
Hey, it's always good to have a millennium, and you're in San Francisco today.
That is right.
So the first thing you're going to do is tell me this New Jersey-San Francisco relationship.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up most of my life in Jersey. My family's out there. So I usually just go back and forth between the two. And I just got back a few days
Where,
ago.
where in New Jersey?
They're in this city called Paterson. It's like North Jersey, a few minutes from New York City.
Wow, wow. I've been, I was up the river. I said in West Point, about 60 miles away.
Yeah, that's not
I
too
think I
far.
dated somebody from around there, I guess. So, where do you like to work? You work back and forth. You're definitely cutting edge, what I consider new technology, new media, all sort of everything tied together. And we're going to talk also about a little bit about your background, but also your latest product. And you've done a lot of products.
Yeah.
So, tell us about how you got to the United States, and how you got to school and then got out to San Francisco.
Yeah. Well, I mean, before I was born, my dad was out here for about 10 years working in like the New York City area. Brought me and my siblings and my mom over when I was 5. So my first recorded memory was at the JFK airport in New York City of my dad. But I grew up in Bangladesh in like this sort of village in the middle of nowhere, really.
Probably didn't have internet there, right?
Definitely not. I mean, barely electricity, on and off electricity. So coming to the U.S. was definitely a huge shock, especially the snow. I mean, we hadn't seen snow ever. But yeah, I came over when I was 5, and then grew up about up until 14 in Paterson, New Jersey. It's not the best city out there. It's kind of, when I was in 7th grade, I recognized that if I wanted to go anywhere big, I needed to get out of the city first.
It's not the Jersey Shore.
No, definitely not.
That's a long way,
No,
but it's
lots
a
of
commuter community,
kind of.
isn't
I
it?
mean, there's a couple people commute, but most people just have like low end jobs, I would say. I mean when I was in 7th grade, I basically heard about this program called NJ Seeds. NJ Seeds picks 100 kids every year from the state of Jersey, from low income but high achieving families, students, and basically helps them get to private school. And when I heard about it, I
Wow,
was
this
pretty
the
psyched.
state does that.
No, this is a private, a nonprofit
Wow.
that does that. And there's a couple in New York City that does it too, but NJ Seeds is specific to Jersey.
So where did you go to school again?
Well, so after that, they helped me get into a private boarding school outside of Boston.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
What's
so
that school, if you don't mind?
it's called Concord Academy.
Concord Academy. I've heard of it. Now, where is it in Boston? The reason why I ask is because I have family from North Shore.
Yeah, I mean, if you've heard of like the Battle of Concord and Lexington, it's that
Absolutely. I was
Concord.
at Fort Devens.
Yeah, it's that one. Or
Two
if you've
two
ever,
A, Highway 2A,
I
two.
guess, yeah,
Yeah,
it's one of those.
yeah.
If you have ever read Walden by Henry David Thoreau,
Absolutely. I know right
Walden's,
where the pond is.
yeah, I've swam in that pond. It's right in the same town. So
Wow.
it's a
Right.
it's a rustic small town,
A lot of early American history.
Yeah, exactly.
Early, like 1600s, 1700s.
Yeah, like
Yep.
Emerson. Yeah.
Indian
Um,
Wars.
yeah. Yeah. So it's a 180 from Patterson, I'll tell you that. There,
Oh, yeah.
I went from gang wars to like, old ladies walking around.
So do you have other brothers and sisters?
I do. I'm actually the youngest of 5.
Well, if you don't mind, your father was here for 10 years. What did
Yeah.
your father, what did your father do? What does he do? What?
He came and he just started working random jobs he could get. So he started in the construction industry.
Hmm.
He did those. He was one of those guys washing the skyscrapers, the windows, and he has like pay stubs to prove it to me. And I'm like, wow, like you did that. Eventually, he transitioned to like the restaurant business and slowly worked his way up to chef, and he did that for many years until eventually he retired.
Very good. And then you've gone into technology.
Yeah, so when I was going to Concord, I needed a way to pay for it. My parents couldn't afford to pay for private school, and financially it covered most of it, but the difference I needed to make up. And so I was interested in like web design and web development, so I decided to try to make money from it. So my first source was going to Craigslist and posting some gigs, and got my first couple of gigs from there, helping pay
That's
for.
called a lean startup.
Yeah, exactly. I did the lean methodology, yeah, and that's the best way to learn. I feel like because I had to learn. I remember one of my first WordPress gigs. I'd never worked with WordPress before, and they asked me if I could do it. I'm like, yeah, sure, I can do it. And I gave them a quote, and then I taught myself about how to do it, and then I delivered. but they had no idea that I had no idea how to do WordPress beforehand.
Yeah, good. And how long did it take you to learn WordPress?
I mean, it's more like how much do you learn?
How much? You know what? That's a good point. How much
Yeah.
do you learn? Because it's unlimited how much you can learn WordPress, isn't it?
Not just WordPress, but just web development
Yep.
in general.
Yep.
Like what I did with WordPress was doing custom themes, and so I had to learn about how to like design custom themes and have them work with the WordPress loop. And I mean, there was definitely a high learning curve, but once you get a hang of it, you start seeing how it all works out. And it was sort of a good intro to see how big frameworks work. Because later on, I got to work with even more complex stuff.
Yes, that's all the fundamental programmers talk just like you talk. They like that purist WordPress frame and build their own frame. You built your own frameworks and own custom sites.
I mean, it's more like these
Child
days,
theme,
like
build your own child theme.
yeah, more like for WordPress at least, the child themes.
Yep.
But these days, you don't like very few people build custom frameworks. It's the frameworks out there are so good.
Yep.
Like
there's a handful.
Yeah. I mean, I don't. PHP isn't really that popular anymore. So I personally am not super experienced in a lot of the PHP frameworks. But the most recent one I played around with was Zen framework.
Okay. We use Genesis, which is the most popular framework, and really does make this WordPress run well. It allows a lot of variable.
Yeah, well, when I mean framework, I mean actually like WordPress is a framework for doing a website.
Yep. You're going a step back.
Yeah, like there's other frameworks like Symfony that are also frameworks for building websites. Whereas Genesis is a theme framework for WordPress, so it's like a sub framework if you want to think of it that way.
Yep. No, I understand. They call it child themes and then skins if you have dynamic, and you have dynamic on top of that. The other one, do you know much about? Trying to think of some of the other frameworks, but we'll invite you back on to talk about that later. Yeah. So tell us more about how you got to where you are today. Now, I know you went to USC.
Yeah, so after Concord Academy, I want to go west, mainly because of weather, and that's also like where the tech industry is. And my high school is 400 people, so I want to go to a big school. And USC seemed like a great option. When I got there, I didn't really know what to focus on because in terms of like the web development courses, there weren't really much that they were offering, at least that I hadn't already like learned on my own. And so I tried everything. I did business, I did entrepreneurship, psychology. I don't know, like I learned Japanese there. It's just I just tried everything. 2 years after getting there, I found myself I was like a TA for a course called Building the High Tech Startup. And I just felt kind of silly because, I was trying to teach people like grad students and undergrad how to build high-tech startups, but I wasn't really out there doing it myself. And so around the same time, I was approached by a friend who had gotten a lot of money from a big investor, and so he wanted me to be their lead designer. And after a semester of thinking about that, I basically decided like one of my fundamental beliefs is you can teach yourself anything. And Bill, you've done that, for example.
Right.
Teaching yourself all this new stuff about podcasting. And so I was like,
and WordPress.
And WordPress.
And I taught myself HTML years ago because I didn't want to spend the money.
Yeah, and I believe anyone can, right? Yeah. It's just people don't believe that they can. And so having said that my whole life, I was like, well, if I'm going to talk about it, I have to prove it, I have to walk the walk. And so I decided to give myself 1 year where I work full time on that startup, and I gave in my leave of absence at USC.
So you did 2 full years at USC.
2 full years at USC.
Yeah. Steve Jobs and a lot of well-rounded people have said that college is not to learn a specific thing; it's to learn a broad base of experiences and fields, somewhat.
Yeah, and specifically, I found the value that college provides is the brand and the connections, right? Yeah. I still, when I bring up the USC brand, it does open doors. No one really asks, like, oh, did you finish?
Especially in Southern California. I grew up in Southern Cal,
in
Orange County, and USC is like the school, it seems. Chapman's big too.
Yeah, it's funny. In the East Coast, people don't really know about USC. Like they're thinking of University of South Carolina.
Right.
So it's a whole different world out there.
And then we have Stanford. I think Stanford, Harvard are the 2 top private
schools
schools that people think about. But USC is a very well known in Southern California.
Yeah,
very well known. It's funny how you picked it. If you don't mind, how did you? Was it expensive? USC is a very expensive school to go to.
Yeah,
and it's hard to get in.
Yeah.
So what was the trick? Good grades, I'm sure.
Well,
Good
here's the
SATs?
thing. I can't say that. I would say I barely got in. My SAT scores wasn't the best. What happened was, so USC does a thing where they accept people late for a spring semester. And I was one of those people who didn't get into their fall semester, but their spring semester. So I actually spent, as soon as I got out of high school, I went straight to work. I worked for about 6 months at a company in Jersey doing web development.
Right. People need to look at your LinkedIn. We'll have the LinkedIn on the show notes.
Yeah.
Your LinkedIn is excellent. I mean, it's solid work, school, work, school, and it's you have a progression. Good.
Yeah, and so so I came into USC late actually. So my 2 years ended at the end of December, not at like May or June or anything like that.
Okay. Did you stay on campus?
So after during the 2 years, basically, yeah. And then when I decided to join this company, I didn't move my apartment. Instead of biking to class, I was just biking to the office. So it was kind of like the best of both worlds. I was hanging out with my college friends, still living like a college student, with the exception of going to work instead of going to class.
And making money.
Yeah, yeah,
College students aren't making money too often, especially at USC.
yeah. And I was losing money.
And I'm sure you met a lot of fairly wealthy people at USC who
Oh yeah.
families from especially Southern Cal. So how did you get up to San Francisco and where you are today with your current program?
Yeah, so after working at that company for about a year, I decided to move up to San Francisco just by myself. I didn't know anyone up here. Packed my belongings and just moved up here and just started making friends. San Francisco is a really welcoming city that I found, and within a couple months, I had like a really great group of friends. And from then on, I just kept on bouncing around, basically doing contract work.
Where do you
Like
live in San Francisco?
right now, I'm living in the Haight.
Okay, there's a ton of work there, isn't there?
Well, all over. I mean,
I
all
mean, a
over the
ton of
place.
work on the peninsula.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I mean, and you meet people. I mean, you go out at night and you're going to see some of all the people at the right places, right?
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you the number of coincidences that happen and serendipitous moments that happen. I mean, you kind of just have to be in the city if you're gonna be in this industry. It's helped me, I mean, untold amounts.
There's a book called The Rainforest that explains the phenomena of the peninsula and specifically of Silicon Valley.
Hmm.
It's started with Stanford, just the people and engineers that popped up, and it evolves to where it is today. And they say people go there because of the relationships, the
Yeah,
personal face-to-face relationships. Yet this is mostly online, high technology, and new media.
yeah,
So tell us about your product, and specifically tell us one of the things that we do is we help politicians and especially local politicians build their campaigns by not spending a lot of money, by learning to run their own websites, to
yeah,
bring people together. Tell us about your product.
yeah. So I started working on my product called Crowdcast about a year ago. I'd say a little bit more than that. Initially, it was more of a physical type of product where not type of product, but in the sense that it's for a physical audience. So you'd be standing in front of a stage, in front of an audience on stage, and you want to interact with the audience in terms of like ask them questions, have them vote on things in real time. Instead of just having hands raised or anything like that. And what I found was it was hard to get people to use it. And so I kept on thinking about what markets to tackle, and then essentially tacked on video, and suddenly it became a webinar tool and webcasting tool. And so now what it's become is a virtual stage. It's become a virtual room for you to interact with your virtual audience. So if you are someone who's organizing political campaigns, or just any scenario where you're talking to a large amount of people, Crowdcast is the most interactive tool you have out there, and also the easiest to use tool out there to set it all up.
And you can live stream by hooking into Google Plus.
Exactly. I mean, it works with any video streaming software, but it's optimized to work with Google Plus.
And the advantage of using Google Plus is once you figure it out, it's free.
Yeah, Google Plus, the Google Hangouts on Air is free, and so it puts a huge like the technical overhead of managing video streaming is gone. So all I have to worry about as Crowdcast is the real-time interaction via chat, via voting on questions, via polls,
Yeah.
providing analytics that's very useful for the host, things like that.
I think the first time I saw your show, Dave Dave, I can't think of Dave's last name. I guess I'll have to cut this out.
Was it a David, right?
No, hold a second. David, I can forget his last name. School of Podcasting. Dave Jackson.
Uh-huh.
Okay, pause for a second. Yeah, the first time I saw Crowdcast was with Dave Jackson,
Hmm.
and he was using it. He's testing stuff constantly, and he's actually how I learned how to podcast, and I actually subscribed to his school and his organization. He's a good guy. I like what he does. He's a little older, but I saw him use it, and basically he has a call-in show, and he was testing it to see if we could get feedback back and forth on top of the call-in. And that's the first time I believe I saw Crowdcast. I said, wow, we could use this politically with local politicians to set up little town hall meetings.
Yeah, there's actually a guy in Florida who reached out to me, and he's doing exactly that.
A
He's using,
politician or
yeah, yeah.
consultant, yeah.
I'm pretty sure he's a politician, but he's using it for politics, to stream like town hall meetings and things like that.
Right, and you could use it, I would guess that you could use it in small churches or schools or communities, boards with like homeowners boards, things of that
Yeah.
nature. Anytime you have a board meeting,
Anytime you have,
open to the public.
yeah, anything. I mean, it doesn't have to be open to the public, but it's more used. Crowdcast is more optimized for bigger audiences anyway. So far we've seen it be used for things like open meetings, for companies where they have an audience feedback component to it.
Now we got to wrap up the first section here, but Crowdcast is free right now. What is your business plan?
Yeah, it's free right now. The plan is to have a free tier moving forward,
Right.
and then charge based on how many people you want or are expecting in your audience. But we're still, I'm still like months, like away from starting to charge people. My main goal right now is to create an awesome product. Keep on adding value until, I mean, people already want to pay for this, so I'm not worried about
Right. And I'm a big
that.
believer that I like to work with plugins, systems, and processes that have some kind of revenue stream so they stay in business
Yeah,
and are profitable. That doesn't mean major dollars like $10, $15 a month, whatever it might be,
yeah,
or expense for the plugin itself. But you have to have some way to provide customer service and do revenue. So very good. So going on, this is a wonderful first evolution. You have a great background. Sai, you've worked hard, and I continue to work hard, and you live in a beautiful place, a fun place.
I appreciate it.
So in your bottom line upfront questions, I always love to ask these. What type of phone and computer do you use?
So I use an iPhone 6, an iPhone 5S. I haven't upgraded yet.
5S. Okay, I got the
Yeah,
5S.
yeah.
It's a
And I,
powerful little phone, isn't it?
yeah, I don't really plan to upgrade it for a while. My laptop's a MacBook Pro Retina 13-inch.
Oh, use
Uh,
the Retina. Yeah, the Retina, the MacBook Pro
yeah, I
Retina,
mean,
right?
yeah,
13.
I
I've
mean,
got the 7. I got the 13.
yeah, I mean, text is so
Um,
crystal clear on it, and I read a lot on my computer, so
yeah, that
it's
helps.
amazing. Yeah.
A good
Uh,
combination. What else?
I mean, I don't really use any other devices, to be honest.
Really? You have
I
any
don't have
PCs hanging out
technologies.
there? Or
I don't have any other
I
PCs.
got about 7 or 8. I could give you one.
I like staying minimal, and light.
I got Exchange Server. It's hard to get rid of it. It takes forever, to clean it up, and
Yeah, exactly.
very good. Hey, let me tell you a good news story about what happened yesterday. My sister's up visiting, and she bought her phone up here in Reno. I knew there was something wrong with it. It wouldn't sync. Everything else was working fine. So we took it in, and it's been almost a year, and she just never could get it to sync. And I said, we got to get this to sync. Everything else is syncing. She's got an iPad and a MacBook Pro. And we took it in. They gave her a brand new phone.
Yeah,
There's something wrong with the connector. Brand new phone, brand new. She's got a brand new battery, 5S.
yeah. It's one of the
That
benefits of
fast.
having Apple and the warranty there.
Yeah, that's good. So, what is your favorite technology?
In what sense? Like
I asked
physical
that. Maybe
device
it's
or
too broad a question. The
technology is such a big
drill it down.
word.
Let's drill down through the online community. What technologies do you like?
Well, so I'm kind of obsessed with efficiency. So anything that can make me more efficient. I mean, these days, I could probably list like 30 different products that I use that I can show you how to like make your life faster and more
So,
effective.
what's your favorite 2 or 3 products that make
I
your
mean,
life more
probably like number one
efficient?
is Dropbox.
Oh, you like Dropbox?
Yeah, I upgraded the Pro account, so I have literally everything, including all my photos and professional work, all on Dropbox.
I'm a holdout. I've got the free Dropbox, but
Uh-huh.
I use Google I use Google Drive, and I've got, believe it or not, I've got the Microsoft OneDrive.
Oh
It's got
yeah.
like a terabyte, and it works
I
pretty
mean,
well.
I mean,
But
I
I know
got
Dropbox works better than them all.
yeah, I got tired of just managing all these different things, and more recently, like my family is very techno illiterate, and so I went home and
No,
I
I can't believe that.
I set them up with. I mean, they're villagers, literally. I mean, they just moved here, and so I set them up with a Dropbox account. So now we have all our family photos
Oh,
in, that like we have like I don't know half a terabyte of photos from the past 10 years.
wow. So that's what,
Uh,
about $10 a month?
yeah, $10 a month.
And now, do they have to upgrade to a pro also?
I already upgraded for them, so
Okay, very good. Good
on
for
me.
you.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you, how can I better ask that question?
I mean,
It,
technology I feel like it's such a vague word. I mean, even like a screwdriver is a technology, right? Um, maybe what's your favorite tech that makes you the most productive? Because your interviews are focused around, timelines of success. So things that help you get there, maybe.
okay, what technologies make you more productive? And you
Yeah,
never give me a couple more since you have 30.
yeah. I use rescue time
I do
as a
too.
way to manage my time, and also like I can see when I'm wasting time. So one of the things, I don't know who said this, but if you measure it, it'll grow or get better. And so if I measure my productivity, it gets better.
I love it.
I use this thing called Alfred, which lets me navigate to any app, do math really quickly. I have lots of shortcuts to reach anything. I use Asana a lot. It's my to-do list for work and personal. And I have an Alfred plugin that works with Asana. So as soon as I have a to-do list, I literally type TD, something to do, enter, and I'm done.
And since you just have your phone and your MacBook, everything's syncing on the cloud.
Everything, yeah. I mean, all my tasks are synced through Asana. All my documents are in, Dropbox. Um, yeah, there's no. I'm not worried if my computer's lost. I mean, it'd suck, but no data is stuck to there. GitHub is where my software or my code is hosted at. So
So you've created your own little Fusionsoft system here almost.
yeah, sure. I mean,
What do you use for mail? And
I use Gmail,
uh,
but I have a lot of plugins.
you have the $50 account a year?
No, no. I'll probably have to upgrade at some point
That's
soon.
cheap. That's the best. That's a good upgrade.
Yeah, but I use Boomerang to send emails later because I work late at night, so people don't want to receive emails at 3 in the morning.
Yeah. So those who know, Boomerang is a plugin for Gmail, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that allow you to delay it. What does that is that free or does that cost, Boomerang?
It's free up until a certain number of usages,
Oh,
emails. I'm not really sure. I've never had to pay yet. I also use Streak, which lets me see if you've read my email, and also manage my CRM with my customers.
what are
Um,
you using for CRM?
I use a hodgepodge of Asana and Streak actually.
Okay.
I'm moving over to just fully Asana, even though Asana is really flexible. You could use it whatever way you want. So I have a whole CRM project to manage every single customer I have, essentially, or the big customers at least.
You ever look at Leadpages?
Yeah, but Leadpages is more for like, getting leads,
Landing sites,
yeah,
right?
landing sites,
Well, you're going to need that with your business.
kind of. I mean, ideally the product sells itself, and it's kind of been doing that.
Yeah,
The great
it,
thing,
it, it has the potential to do it, doesn't it?
yeah, the great thing
Because
is
I
like,
saw it.
yeah, when people like Dave, use it, then he's now introducing it to 10 other people or 100
Yeah.
other people or 1,000 other people.
And we'll be telling people about it, but we want to prove it. We want to test it. Yeah,
Yeah, well, I mean, right now I would say it's pretty well proven. Like the biggest event I've had was a 30,000 people web conference.
that is huge.
And we think it's the world's largest web conference, but I don't know if there's any
Tell
way to
us
prove
about the
that.
web conference. I think it is.
Well, back in December, I teamed up with a company called Hackhands to pull off basically a web developer conference, with the world's like best tech speakers. Everything from like Tim O'Reilly to Jennifer Pollock, who's like the ex-CTO of the U.S. government, to like the creators of all these amazing frameworks that we use every day, like the creator of Rails, who's DHH, like the guys who made Ember.js, the guys who we look up to. It was cool to just have them use Crowdcast and talk to thousands of people simultaneously.
Very good. So I'm going to ask you the next two questions. Got to drive on and finish up in the next 5 minutes.
Hmm.
What's your best motivational quote, or what quote do you like? You've given us one.
I mean, it's kind of cheesy, but you know, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
I believe that from your
Right?
background.
Yeah,
USC, you kept on shooting at USC.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
what I was thinking when we were talking. Good. Very good. Does that attribute to anybody?
It is. I don't know who.
Arnold Palmer or somebody? I
I
don't
could
know.
probably look that up later. Yeah.
What is
Uh,
your favorite author and book?
in terms of like motivation and like,
Either motivation or educational.
I don't know. I mean, lately I've been really reading a lot of spiritual stuff. Um,
Which spiritual material?
I mean, I've been reading a lot of, I mean, if you ever look into Robert Monroe, look into his work. But in terms of like pure motivation, I think this is also kind of a classic one. A lot of Tony Robbins and Tim Ferriss is on that list. The 4 Hour Work Week is probably one that really made me seriously consider pulling this stuff off.
Okay, the 4 hour work week, we'll talk about that. I'm sure you work more than 4 hours.
Oh yeah.
Do you use VAs yet?
No, I don't really plan to.
I just used one for the first time.
Really?
Yeah, I'm looking. I used to be pretty good in graphics, and I'm looking at somebody to take over all design and graphics.
I see. Well, for the audience, VA means virtual assistant.
Thank you. I'm supposed to do that. VA, very good. So we gotta tie this all together and finish up the next 3 to 4 minutes.
Mhm.
So, what do you enjoy doing when you're not coding, working in San Francisco or New Jersey?
I mean, anything that involves getting in nature, just getting back with the planet, somehow. I most like on Sunday, I had a bunch of friends and we were just hanging out, playing yoga and uh, playing games around yoga. So it was like working out while having fun. Um, so anything like that. I mean, I play frisbee a lot. We go
Have,
running on Mondays a
have you
lot.
been over to Reno yet?
No.
Have you been up in the Sierra,
I mean,
the mountains?
I've been to Tahoe.
Oh, Tahoe's close. That's
Yeah,
like really close to
it's
here.
the closest thing I can think of.
Yeah, yeah. Tahoe is very close. It's a gorgeous. You keep on going past Tahoe and you hit Reno
Yeah,
and the beautiful mountains, the east side of Sierra. Okay.
yeah.
And that's gorgeous. Yeah. Very well. You're welcome. Next time you come over here, make sure you call me ahead of time.
Will
We'll do
do.
something. There's a lot to do here.
Yeah, I mean, I plan to go snowboarding hopefully in the upcoming weeks.
And another thing I can tell about you that you're really close to your family.
I mean, I look out for them,
Well,
but
you're back in New Jersey. You go back and forth. I mean,
yeah,
you have strong ties in your
I
family.
have strong ties with them, but I generally keep them out of the loop when it comes to business and what I'm doing, just because it's not. I don't want them to worry. Like when I dropped out of college, I didn't really tell them much about it until a year later. Um, when I started a company, I didn't really tell them much about it. When they ask what I'm doing, I'm saying I'm just working on stuff. It's going well.
Is
Um,
anyone else in your family entrepreneurial?
no, I mean, my oldest brother. I mean, they all have various, just like a wide array of jobs, but not necessarily. I would say one of them has a career, you know.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, for the most part, actually everyone that I know in the U.S. is still back in Patterson. And we've been slowly bringing over the cousins, so now it's like about 40 people, all within a 2 block radius of our house. So
Yeah.
every time I go back, it's a family reunion.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. So, in closing,
Mhm.
what's the most important takeaway for the listener that you have and advice? Now, the listeners are entrepreneurs,
Yeah,
and we're getting a lot of now politicians or candidates starting to listen in because
yeah,
they're listening for those little bits of gold. What's your advice to them?
yeah. I would say a lot of people have some serious limiting beliefs that prevent them from accomplishing what they want to accomplish. Like, if you had believed that you can't learn HTML or if you can't learn WordPress or things like that, you wouldn't be doing this right now, right? You wouldn't have built this brand. But you believe that you could, and now you're here, right?
Right.
Um, if I believe, like I was a designer for most of my life, and if I believed that I couldn't program, which most designers believe, then I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. And things are really scarier than it seems. From afar, it seems scary, but when you start diving into it, you realize that it was just a perception, and that society just there's lines that we draw that that we don't realize you can cross. So all I would say is notice when you have a limiting belief and realize that you're limiting yourself by believing in it.
Well, well said. Well, Sai, how can we reach you?
I mean, you can find me on Twitter, at Saidur H, or find me on Facebook, also Facebook /Saidur H. It's probably the easiest way.
We'll have links to your website and your email, not your email, but your Twitter, Facebook. We'll have those on the show notes at Timelines of Success.
Mhm.
Also, I usually talk about this early on, but if people want to, they can, if they're listening on iTunes, they can punch the artwork, punch the soldier, I say. I'm going to change that artwork. I just haven't had time. Punch the artwork, and up will pop the YouTube, and you'll see all the mistakes I made in this in the middle. Not the mistakes, but I forgot somebody's name. Sorry, Dave. That's stress. Think slow, think fast type. So that's it. So we really appreciate your. Oh, we do have one more question. We always ask. Last question. What's your favorite food?
Oh man. Well, I mean, I'm kind of biased. I generally like anything with a lot of spice and flavor. So I'm biased to like,
Is that Bangladesh food?
yeah, yeah.
Tell the listeners what Bangladesh food is all about.
Just imagine Indian food with like 10 times more spiciness.
Ooh, it sounds good.
Yeah. So that's my favorite type, I'd say.
Very good. Very good. Sai, we're all done. I'm going to go ahead and shut this off. Out of curiosity, what's your religion out of Bangladesh?
I mean, I'm not religious, but my most of Bangladesh is a Muslim country.
Yeah, I know they had the war against Pakistan. Oh, India, of course.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah,
exactly. So
aren't there some Buddhists still?
there's some in the northern areas, but for the most part, it's pretty Islamic.
Yeah, your name, of course.
Yeah, Hossain. Yeah, and but I mean, I consider myself spiritual.